John Lindgren, Deputy Director of Human Flight Services at NASA. It's a huge privilege.
Thank you so much.
Dr. Lindgren, so you're causing quite a stir in Taiwan because you're not just an astronaut, you're also half Taiwanese and Taiwan born. What's it like to be back?
Well, thank you. It's such a joy to be back. You know, I was born here, lived here for 2 years as a young child, have had the opportunity to visit family in the 80s over the summers. The last time I was here was in '94 as a part of a language exchange. And so it's been a long time. But during my space flights, looking down at the Earth, looking at places where I've lived, places where I have family, places where I want to visit, I always looked for Taiwan. Just this beautiful, beautiful jewel in the Pacific, and enshrouded in mist, and so grateful now to be back on the ground at this place that is so much a part of my past, and just enamored by the views from space.
And we all saw that photo that you sent of Taiwan from space. You're here to encourage Taiwan's space industry, the next generation of scientists, engineers, and perhaps even astronauts?
Absolutely. It is such a unique opportunity, such a privilege to get to serve as an astronaut, to have the opportunity to live and work in space. And so it's a privilege to share that unique experience, really the human experience of living and working in low Earth orbit, and to see the Earth from that perspective. And so to share that message, to encourage students, investigators, researchers on the importance of space, the importance of partnership, especially as we are looking to return to the moon, to establish sustainable presence, and then looking onto Mars. And I believe that Taiwan can be an important part of that.
So what is it that makes NASA want to work with Taiwan, and what have you seen so far on this trip that's impressed you?
You know, NASA and the U.S. is interested in partnering with countries all around the world, finding partners that can bring expertise and experience to the table. We are exploring for humanity, and we want humanity, the broad swath of partnerships, to be a part of this exploration. This has been an amazing trip to visit this university, to see the experience they have in space, and really to learn about Taiwan's expertise and technology. Those are pieces that can be a critical part of future exploration.
Okay, just for our Taiwanese audience, you've only been here since Tuesday, but have you managed to do anything very Taiwanese, like eating stimpy tofu or visiting a temple?
Absolutely. So we actually arrived Sunday, very early, and so took both Sunday and Monday to explore. So we did a 3-hour walking tour on the very first day, starting at Longshan Temple. Made our way from all the way to the Chiang Kai-shek Memorial. We've definitely taken in some bubble tea and some of the local food, and it's been an absolute joy to explore.
And were there any connection to your childhood, eating those foods again?
Well, I remember very clearly, especially when we visited in the 80s when I was a young child, roaming through the market and seeing those little kind of bread cakes shaped in the shape of animals and those sorts of things. And so seeing that again while we were walking just brought back so many memories. The other piece of exploration that we did is we went and found the hospital where I was born. And so connecting with that location was very meaningful.
So you said that for as long as you can remember, you've wanted to be an astronaut. And we're just showing now a clip of 3 figurines that I understand you take up into space. Can you describe to us or tell us what in particular as a child that really inspired you about Star Wars?
You know, I was inspired by science fiction. I'm a Star Wars kid. I loved reading science fiction, but it wasn't really until 2nd grade. My teacher rolled a television into our classroom, and I got to see the very first launch of the first space shuttle in 1981. And that's when it clicked with me that living and working in space wasn't fantasy, wasn't science fiction, but a reality. And from that point on, I was hooked.
in that interview that we showed, you talk about how science fiction inspires science fact. And so I wanted to go into that a little bit more. If scientists and engineers are inspired by movie makers and artists, what does that say about the power of imagination and its role in science, in space?
Well, I think imagination is critical to the process. You know, to be inspired by some idea that a writer has, and then to see that on film, to want to be a part of that, and then someday to see that come true. You know, Arthur C. Clarke and the idea of communication satellites, and that's where we are today. And so the things that we see when we are young, the things that we are inspired by, are things that we pursue in education and in our careers. And so that, I think that circle is so important, to be inspired by the imagination of others, to make those things come true, to further inspire writers and then engineers of the future.
Yeah, you mentioned also C. Clarke, and then there's Jules Verne, and even Star Trek.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about Artemis 2.
Yes.
So you worked intimately, closely with these astronauts, preparing them for their journey. You also, as we know, did 2 space missions yourself, over 300 days.
That's right.
In space. So as you watched the crew and that, making of history, what were the emotions that you yourself felt?
Oh boy, so proud of this crew, so proud of the team. So that crew represents hundreds, if not thousands, of people investing thousands, if not millions of hours in preparing for this mission. And so proud of the team that executed that got the crew safely around the backside of the moon and back to Earth. It was so powerful. And for anyone that watched that crew work, communicate with the Earth, express their views of the moon as they were going around the backside, describing the solar eclipse, that is what makes human spaceflight so compelling, is the human element, that somebody from our species, one of our friends, our colleagues, our teammates, is experiencing that and sharing their thoughts and feelings of having gone through that. That is why that storytelling is what makes human spaceflight so important.
Following on from that, we hear about the profound changes, or profound change that astronauts have, sort of psychologically, as they look down more than 10,000 kilometers onto Earth. Can you tell us about that, as well as the concept of Earth as our spaceship?
Absolutely. I think that your experience with the overview effect, really depends on what thoughts, beliefs you carry as you go on your mission. Some people feel disconnected from the Earth, very alone. For myself, looking back at the Earth, I felt very connected. But really the most profound element was looking at the Earth and its absolute beauty, but recognizing that on the space station, this vehicle that provides us with air to breathe and food to eat and the protection from the harsh environment outside, we spend 30% of our time taking care of this space station, because if it breaks, the crew inside dies. We depend on the space station for our life. And then as you look at the Earth, there is nothing like it in our vicinity. And all of humanity is there. It is humanity's spaceship. But I think that very few of us spend 30% of our time taking care of this spaceship Earth. The resources are not inexhaustible. They are limited, and the belief that I came back with is that we need to do a better job taking care of humanity's spaceship.
It's a privileged position, career, to be an astronaut. Can you tell us how NASA chooses particular astronauts for these missions? I mean, for Artemis 4, when humans will go back to the moon, I expect every single astronaut in the US would put their hand up. So how
Absolutely. Yeah, it's very challenging. And you're absolutely right. It is a privilege. It is an absolute privilege to be able to serve as a NASA astronaut, to have that opportunity to live and work in space. And you're absolutely right that every one of our astronauts will be interested in being a part of that Artemis landing. We have the benefit of choosing from the very best and brightest into the astronaut corps, and we have the privilege of choosing the very best and brightest, and those that have the skill and expertise that is going to be needed for that particular mission to be selected for that landing mission. So it'll be a difficult choice, but we've got an amazing group of professionals to choose from.
Would you like to go yourself?
Oh, I'd love to.
The third mission, is that very rare to go on 3 missions?
Not necessarily, but at this point I'm serving in a leadership role and as the Deputy Director of the Flight Operations Directorate. And so my priority is to serve where the agency and the country needs me. And so if that's serving in leadership, that's what I'll do. If they want to put me on a lunar mission, I'd love to do that as well.
You were away at International Space Center for 4 to 5 months, a long period. Tell me about how space takes a toll on your body and your mind, and also if you can look at that through the fact that, as you mentioned, the next destination will be Mars.
Right.
How will that change these impacts?
Absolutely. I think that for most of us, the biggest challenge of being in space for 5, 6, 12 months is really being away from our families. And the team does an amazing job of allowing us to connect with our families through a phone system, through video chats, through care packages. As I think about that long duration flight to Mars, it will continue to be even more challenging because we're going to be further away from the Earth, increasing our communications latency. We're not going to have the Earth to look at every day, but I have faith in our behavioral health support team, our mental health team, that will support us as we undertake that challenge.
Trying to tie in your mom, who's
Yes, absolutely.
Your journey hasn't always been smooth, and I believe that this has also shaped you as an astronaut. You've spoken about one of the lowest points in your life. You described that as being a cursed day.
Yeah.
The darkest day of your life. But you see it now as a blessing in
That's
disguise.
right.
Can you tell us about how your mom might have helped you through this and what influence she has been on your career? Many people in Taiwan think that she must be a tiger mom because you're not just an astronaut, but you're also a doctor. You have multiple degrees. You have 24 years of cumulative higher education. This morning you said you were top of your class in the Air Force Academy.
Oh, I definitely was not at the top of my class at the Air Force Academy, but graduated high enough to be able to go to pilot training. So grateful to my parents for their support and instruction. I would not describe my mom as a tiger mom. What she did and what my parents did was really support my choices, never telling me what I needed to do, but telling me if there was something that I wanted to do, if I had a goal, that I just needed to work hard to pursue it, and then supported me in pursuing that goal. So I feel privileged and grateful for the support that my parents provided in really providing the environment for me to excel and creating in me a joy for learning, for curiosity, for exploration, and enabling me to pursue this path that I've pursued.
And very finally, shout out to those in Taiwan as well as in the Indo-Pacific, our audience who dream of space.
大家好，谢谢你。